Hey, what's up, family? I'm Rachel.
And I'm Joe.
And we are Two Crazy Ketos.
And if you're new to our channel, welcome. Here on Two Crazy Ketos, we do different things like recipe videos and we do product reviews. We talk about various keto topics, and every Monday we go live on Keto Beyond the Couch, where we just kind of talk about what's going on in our lives for the week.
You can find us in different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And we have a website, which is twocrazyketos.com, and that's where you're going to find all of our different recipes. Now, we do upload at least 5 new videos every single week, so make sure you subscribe to our channel.
And don't forget to hit the little bell icon, and that way every single time we upload a new video, you'll be alerted to it.
It is time for another Keto Audit from our podcast.
And this time, it's with our friend Kris.
So if you don't know what a Keto Audit is, this is a series that we're running on our podcast. And if you're not subscribed to our podcast, I'll leave a link for a few of them down below, but we are available on all of the different podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Just go ahead to your favorite one, find Two Crazy Ketos. We upload new podcasts every Tuesday and Friday. But our Keto Audit podcast series is basically where we do a little bit of an audit of somebody's keto journey and try to coach them along a little bit on something they may be struggling with.
Yeah. And I mean, Kris, that we're going to be talking to this week, has been so successful on keto, but I think we brought out even more tips for continued success.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and roll the footage, and then we will come back and sum it all up. Before we get started, I just want to say that Kris is also like my spirit animal because she loves RVing, and she actually went to RV tech school to just learn how to work on them.
I thought that was incredible. Yeah. Talk about like do it yourself. I mean, that is just stinking awesome. You're such a rock star.
That's my motto is do DIY. That's all I do.
I was raised that way. My dad, I remember growing up, I was like, why are we doing the roof ourselves? Why are we remodeling the kitchen ourselves? And he was like, because you do it yourself for 2 reasons. Number one, you know it's done right. And if it's not done right, at least it's your fault, not because you hired someone who doesn't know what they're doing. And he's like, B, it helped us save money so we can do things like have a boat or go on vacation or something, because it's expensive to hire people. So I learned the only thing he didn't know how to do was work on a car. That's why I don't know how to work on a car.
Well, and that is something that you have to do for yourself is start keto. Like that's really deciding to do it for yourself. You know, a lot of times in the past, if someone's utilized like, hey, you know, let me just use bars or send me, you know, Nutrisystem. So you're packaging up my weight loss plan all for me. I'm not having to do it myself. But with keto, you got to kind of do it yourself. You're going to have to make actual food for yourself. And I wonder, how did you first come to keto, Kris? And also, what's that journey been like for you?
So I came to keto after trying, like most people, several different weight loss methods that weren't quite successful. But I found out about it on a business trip, a company trip to the Bahamas. We were standing around talking, and I guess a friend of mine had spotted a coworker. I didn't know him, but she spotted him and she's like, oh my gosh, you lost so much weight. What did you do? Right? That's how we find out. And he said, I did keto. And his wife was right there too. And I guess she promoted it to him, and he just lost, he was half the man he used to be. That's the best way to put it. And I saw pictures and all that stuff, and I'm like, so what did you do? Keto? What is this keto thing? And I think I'd heard of it, but I'm like, oh, it's just some fad, you know, like probably like the Atkins diet where you're going to gain all your weight back, you know. But that was just what I'd heard, right? But when they started describing it, I'm thinking, I can do that. That's easy. I said, what now? You only have to eat meat and vegetables. And bacon is on the diet.
Yeah.
Check. Sign me up. I'm there. But so when we came back, this was like November of 2018. We came back home, and I'm just like, I'm in. I'm doing this. And I think I hopped on Thomas DeLauer's YouTube channel, and that's where I learned what I did about it. And of course, lots of Googling. But that was the start for me. And it was pretty easy. I mean, I had done similar things in the past. I don't think I'd quite done Atkins, but I had heard and saw the results that people who were on Atkins had. So I was thinking, well, all right, this is doable for me. But the the weight loss history for me was back to childhood. I was a rail as a kid growing up. I could eat anything, but at the time, well, thinking back to what I did eat though, it was garden vegetables. It was my parents. We had, I think, 5 acres, and my mom and dad gardened. I hated the garden. It was outside. There were bugs. There were stinging things. But I mean, I loved to play outside. I just didn't like the garden outside. So my trade-off for them was, I'll clean the house. You guys do the gardening. I don't have to be outside and it's
That
hot,
seems
sweaty.
fair.
Right. So that's what I did as a early, I don't know. I was probably 12, 13 years old when I started doing that. But I'll do the dishes. I'll do anything to stay out of that garden. There's bugs and they're pointy and they're sharp and they hurt and but anyway, we had fresh vegetables. We had beans. We shared a pig with my aunt and uncle. We shared a cow with a neighborhood. My parents my dad went deer hunting with his brothers. And so there was not a lot of packaged foods in my life. The only time we did packaged foods was when we went on vacation in a car on a road trip. So we didn't have to stop anywhere. My dad was like, we're making it to Florida. I grew up in Virginia. We're heading to Florida. So we're on our way there, and we had Little Debbie treats, and that's about it. That was and fast food. That's the only time we did fast food was when we were on a road trip. I ate a lot of meat, good, fresh, healthy meat. I ate a lot of, I can't say I love vegetables. I actually really hated vegetables. I considered corn my favorite vegetable, and of course we all know now corn is not a vegetable. So my mom, though, I'm not going to say she was a bad cook. Both my parents have passed away, but my mom she had to learn how to cook when she got married I think she was 17 or 18. And so I think she bought the Betty Crocker cookbook, and I still have that cookbook. And Betty Crocker can make some pies and cakes, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she can.
And she can do meats too. But when it comes to vegetables, I don't know if you've ever seen this. You flip over to the vegetable page, and literally everything on there says boil.
Right.
Boil the vegetables. No. Anyway, so I did not like vegetables. And I remember sitting at the table literally gagging on boiled squash. And my dad would get really angry and say, just let her have cereal. Score! What? That's all I have to do to not eat vegetables? So that started a bit of a habit. But basically, I ate the meat and veggies. Then when I was 16, I got, like most kids, I think, at the time, my first job. And I grew up near a small town, 10 miles away from a small town. And there was one fast food restaurant that opened up. It was Dairy Queen.
Oh, wow.
That's where my first job was, Dairy Queen. Where we had to learn how to make, I don't know if you've seen it, the little curly Q on the end of the Q.
Yes.
I had to learn I just did that motion. We had to learn how to make those cones, and then we literally ate our mistakes. So that was the beginning of the weight gain for me. But I was still pretty active in high school. I played softball, volleyball, basketball, all that stuff. So I think the activity level kept my metabolism pretty high. And I was probably still a rail. But then after that, I went to college and still working at Dairy Queen, still literally eating our mistakes. But I mean, and sometimes you find yourself making a mistake. Oh, darn, I messed up this shake, y'all. Oh, yeah. So I think the owner caught on to that. But anyway, I went into the Air Force where there's a standard for your weight. So you have to maintain a standard. So that kept me on track for 20 years. Cue me retiring and then not having to worry about what I ate or exercise or anything. And oh my gosh, the weight came on fast. So I retired in 2009. By 2014, I think I'd probably gained 50 pounds maybe. And I didn't carry it well at all. no one said anything to me either. And it wasn't until I saw a picture of myself that I was just like, oh my gosh, what happened? So I started looking for weight loss ideas, and I found Body for Life. Actually, I found Body for Life while I was on active duty. I think there was a fitness test coming up that I was not going to make. I don't know if, do you guys heard of Body for Life? Bill Phillips, Body for Life. There was a whole journal thing. I've bought repeated journals over the years, but after a while, I think they stop working for you because it's no longer, here's what I found. This is the most important part, right? I found in writing my story and preparing for this, that every time I successfully lost weight, it was because I was doing it with somebody. I had a friend that I did it with. I had a competition that I was in, or a challenge, or an event that was coming up. I was doing it for a reason, and I hadn't discovered my why. I really, because to lose weight isn't a great why. To lose weight is just a piece of the pie. And I think that doing it together, doing it with somebody, motivating each other, encouraging each other, that was the key to every time that I've successfully lost weight and stayed on track. And that brings me to the biggest obstacle that I have had even with keto, is staying on track, because something can come up. Be it I'm coming home from work, it's been a long day, it's been a stressful day, it's been a crappy day, and name your favorite fast food restaurant, and you pull in and you grab whatever you want, and then you're like, it doesn't even taste good. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even taste good. So that's where my struggle has been.
Wow. There was something that just absolutely talk about this will t-shirt is we ate our mistakes. When you said that, I literally almost just jumped off this bench, because I think to myself, that could really represent for me, what I did for a really long time. My hurt, my pain, any kind of emotions. If you're an emotional eater, like eating your mistakes is definitely a great way to describe it.
It's a great way to describe it, but I need to say, will you stop saying the t-shirt thing? Because you say this and then somebody else makes the t-shirt before I can turn it into a t-shirt.
I could go make one right now.
T-shirt. Like, I got to go copyright that design right now. I do want to say, wow. First of all, I want to say thank you for your service. I do want to say that right off the bat, but it really struck me when you said that you came out of the military and all of a sudden you just started ballooning up because you didn't have to be this certain weight. And it almost brings us back to what our friend Jay Morales talks about with coming out of the military. Is like one of the struggles that military people have is they're in the military for all of these years and they're being told when to eat, what to eat, where to eat, when to go to the bathroom, what to do, what time to wake up. And then all of a sudden you come home and you're like, okay, nobody's telling me to do anything. And they struggle and many times end up homeless. And so that's why we do our 11 on 11 campaign, where we live stream for 11 straight hours to bring awareness to these issues. So I'm so happy to see that you've been able to get on top of that. But the thing that you said about community really hit me hard.
Yeah.
Because that is something that we have talked about, that and why we have our channel, that you really can't do this without community. I think it's hard to do any kind of weight loss or just live life without community. But when you come into the keto lifestyle, and there are so many people that are saying things like, this is going to kill you, it's not healthy. We have friends and family members and doctors and coworkers all going, I don't understand. How are you giving up bread? Why don't you want to eat sugar? Just have a little bit, because they don't understand. And that's why I think it's so important to have community, which is why we have our Muddy Networks group and our Facebook group.
I also think that it is in community that when you make a friend, they're able to redirect you and say to you, you don't need to eat that mistake today. When we share our lives with one another and we're like, hey, we're having a hard day. If I'm trying to tackle that on my own, I'm going to try to fix it and go back to what I've done all along, which is eat my mistakes.
Right.
But another person in your camp can really help you say, no, you don't need to eat that. No, I don't eat that. That's not something that you need to chew on any longer.
So Kris has volunteered to allow us to coach her for a little while. But before we get into the thing that you want to get coached on, what kind of success have you actually had on keto? Like, how long have you been keto and what kind of success have you had on it?
So I've been keto since, well, like I said, I started in November of 2018, and that's the only way of eating that I've done, minus some side setbacks that I mentioned. And I tell you, I know I'm a carb addict because when I do go off of plan, then I go off. You know, if you're going to do it, well, that's what I did. So I struggled to come back to it. And I think I'm damaging my metabolism severely when I do that. It's like 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward, or 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. It just depends on how long I can stick it out. And now I think I've answered my own question in how to stick it out. And that is by planting these conferences. That was my first conference at Keto Orlando Summit. And just coming together with y'all, thinking that, you know, maybe I'll learn something, right? But instead finding people that think the same way that you do and that aren't judging you for where you are in your journey. And that's what I want. But I think there's also people that will help you stay accountable and keep you on track. So when I see someone again that I saw at the last conference, I can be encouraging to them and say, "Oh my gosh, you look great." Or, "What are you doing that you shouldn't be?" I just, you know, I'm going to say this with the most amount of love I can, because no one else will. You know, it's being a single person. No one's going to correct me. No one's going to say, "Hey, don't you think you ought to, you know, you've been putting on some pounds." But so I won't have any problem telling people that. And I also won't have any problem giving that encouragement of, "Oh my gosh, you look great." And it feels so good to hear, doesn't it? It feels so good to hear those words. "Have you lost weight?" And that's what I think is so special about these events, not just the learning that you can do, the community that happens, but that personal interaction just means so much. I didn't realize how much it meant until I went.
First of all, I want to say you're not damaging your metabolism. You're just having your metabolism do what it's supposed to be doing. Yeah. Maybe it's not being optimal for what you're looking for, but I always encourage people, don't use the word damage, because damage means I broke it. Like, sure. When we say we slowed down our metabolism because we were way under eating the amount of fuel we're supposed to be eating, well, that's how it's designed to do. So it's not really broken. We allowed something to happen that maybe we didn't want it to happen, but that also means we can bring it back the other way. Broken many times means it can't be fixed.
Sure.
So that's a good mindset to get into. I'm so thankful that you feel that way about helping people. And I know that you've even put into our group things like, "Hey, if you need help, I'm here for you." Because I know that having an accountability partner can really help people, especially when they give you that invitation, like, "I'm inviting you into my life, and so if I'm screwing up, tell me."
Definitely. I definitely love what you said about how I will hold you accountable if you're doing something incorrect. A lot of times we see support as only the cheering on side of it. But I will never forget, I went to a conference. It wasn't for keto, but it was like a work-related conference. And I was in the bathroom and somehow managed to stick my skirt in my pantyhose and was about to walk out the door with my butt literally hanging out. And a stranger said, "Sweetheart, I don't know you, but you are about to head out that door and your butt is hanging out. So I just want you to fix it." And so I was not upset with that person. In fact, I hugged her neck right there, even before I fixed my butt, because she helped me to not make the situation worse. And so I think that is so powerful. If you are in community and you are an accountability partner for somebody, yes, tell that person when there's room for improvement, because that really is love. That truly is support, is to help me, stay in the success zone.
And sometimes an accountability partner is better somebody who is on the outside. I think one of the struggles that Rachel and I have is that we are each other's accountability partner. And that can be great, but it can also not be so great because you have situations like, hey, honey, do you really think you should be eating that? Can you go sleep in the other room now?
Right.
So, when you have somebody on the outside who it can really look and be like, okay, let's talk about this, where they don't have a dog in the fight, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's like, I have a dog in the fight. She has a dog in the fight, and she has to live with me when I wake up in the morning and go, I'm really not happy with the scale right now. I don't feel that good. And when she tells me what I'm doing wrong, I don't want to hear that either. But
Sure.
an outside person is good for that. So thank you for doing that. So let's get into what is your biggest struggle right now on keto?
Well, I didn't finish answering your question about my success. My success was, as far as keto is concerned, I topped out, I want to say around originally it was 236. And I think I got down to the 190s before keto. And then I stopped. And then when I found keto, my weight, I think it was around 216, but like everybody else, you kind of stop weighing. I went from 216 to around, I want to say I got down to 160s, high 160s, low 170s. And that was in 2020. And then, 2020 happened.
That whole change in the world.
Right. And so I definitely put some weight back on and then rebooted keto. And when I did like BBB and E in January of this year, that was awesome. That was a super kickstart that I needed. I got down to, I lost 12 pounds total that month, right? And that was doing keto chow, right? So I'm looking forward to this time. When you have that type of success, it's really easy to have a slow fade back. And I know that's what happened because, people won't tell you the secret that you can gain weight on keto.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm sorry. It's true. But I can tell you how it happens. And so I think this is my biggest obstacle. Thankfully, I recently identified it while writing my story. Snacking in front of the television with any number of keto treats, having too many keto desserts, not giving your system a break. Like, for example, on this challenge, this current BB&E challenge, not having a sweet soda. All right. I'm only, actually, there's nothing sweet about this challenge. That's funny. The challenge is very sweet, but there's nothing that's going in my mouth that's sweet. There's the morning coffee experience that I'm allowing myself. There's the bacon. I love that. But when I would get off track in the past, the biggest obstacle was not snacking in front of the television. I'm sure of it. And keto treats, just because it does have clean ingredients. And I believe you were saying that in the podcast that I heard yesterday, the 6th of September. The problem was, just because it has clean ingredients, just because it's keto, does not mean you need to eat it right then. And I think the best idea for me could be just to, if I want that, put it with a meal. Put it at the end of the meal while I'm eating that meal and stick to meal times. Don't eat in front of the TV is another thing. That's something that I recently learned. And I think that's the biggest obstacle is between meal snacking. Well, it wasn't really snacking. It was when I was doing keto and I was just mindlessly eating in front of the TV. But when I'm actively trying to lose weight on keto, I think it's sticking to it, and not having those moments of, I had a bad day, let me drive into this drive-through, or having a bad day and just saying, screw it, I'm done. I'm done trying to be this focused on something, because you can only have one master. So that's the first thing. And then going from there.
That is really something that I think a lot of people struggle with is, first of all, how am I going to sweeten my life without sweet things? And then also, what do I do when I'm watching television? If I feel like it's just such a passive thing that we're doing, and we want to do something even in the midst of watching television. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. We just need to switch it out for another activity instead of eating. So even I have watched television and also had like a puzzle in front of me where I'm sort of like watching the TV and I'm doing a puzzle. I have watched TV and started coloring a coloring sheet because I'm doing two things at once. And I understand that, some people are like, hey, be focused, and that be the only thing that you're doing at the same time. But if I'm trying to transition from I'm occupying my hands and body while I watch TV to just do this and don't move, I don't think it's going to feel very natural. And I think that I'm going to be just super conscious of like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then that's going to create a total forbidden fruit for me. Now I have to do it or I'm going to freak out. So I think that, yes, definitely the sweetness to this challenge is the results that you're aiming for in the end. But we have to live through this challenge. So I think that we definitely need to find other ways to occupy our hands and our mind and our body, even as we're doing some of these tasks that normally we would do in conjunction with food.
One of the things that we've learned as we've researched sleep and the effect that artificial light and screens has on us is that the blue light that emits from our computer and our TV and our phones actually can raise insulin and actually affects our hunger hormones. It makes us want to snack.
Interesting.
Which really makes sense. And like, why do we always want to eat when we're in front of the television? Well, because
or go to the movies.
The light is impact. It's one of the reasons Rachel and I actually have chosen to not go to movies. Like just this past Saturday was the National Cinema Day, and Anthony was like, hey, we should go to the movies. It's only $3. But I have two things with going to the movies. First of all, I like to go to the bathroom and not miss anything. And it's fun to hit pause at home, right? But the other thing is, it's like, I don't know about doing a movie in a movie theater without popcorn. So for me, and I don't want to mindlessly snack. Yeah, I could bring in some beef jerky in Rachel's mom purse, but like, how much am I going to eat am I going to eat enough beef jerky or pork rinds to get me through the movie? And now I'm just mindlessly snacking. And so for me, we just made this decision that, you know what? Movies now come out on iTunes within like 3 weeks of it being released in the theater. You can buy that movie for less than the cost of one ticket to go to the movie theater, and then you own it for the rest of your life. So that's what we did, because that snacking thing is real for me. And so I applaud you for making this decision that like, I need to try to not eat in front of the television. We want to focus on our food, because that is our life, and, focusing on the chewing and things like that. So if there was one thing that we could really help you work on today, what would it be?
I think you already have with this, just the suggestions as we go. The obstacles for emotional eating, I think, is also another thing that I definitely could use suggestions on, because controlling that urge to just say, chuck it, I'm done. I'm just going to eat what I want today. I need some comfort food. Also, well, the emotional eating seminar or talk at Keto Orlando Summit was awesome, because identifying those triggers, now I know that was anger, that is frustration. That's the number one, I think, is frustration for me, is like, things didn't go my way. I'm going to be a 2-year-old and pitch a temper tantrum and go eat what I want.
Me too.
So yeah, that's it. Is the solution to emotional eating, first off, is identifying the emotion, naming it, anger, frustration, what have you, had a hard day. I just want to sing that song now. But anyway, what else can you do? I mean, pick up something, do something. But what do you suggest? You can't do much while you're driving down the road, right? When sometimes somebody cuts you off and you're like, I've learned to just give those people grace, because obviously what they have going on is way more important than what I have going on.
Right.
So, but yeah, dealing with the emotion that creeps into everyone's life, whether it's, it could be a bad day, or it could be a death in the family. I've seen that a lot lately in Mighty Networks, as people are dealing with sudden deaths in the family, and that is just so easy to get derailed. Absolutely, you have to deal with that grief, but there's the next day, there's the next meal, there's the next choice. So what advice do you have for those of us who struggle with making the right decision?
That's a great question. I think that sometimes when it's about emotion, we think it's supposed to be so authentic, and we're supposed to deal with it in the moment and be kind of impulsive about it. And, we can't authentically have plans for emotion, but we absolutely can. I think that it's a really important thing to kind of begin a journaling process and a battle plan for, what am I going to do in moments of happiness? What am I going to do in moments of celebration? What am I going to do in moments of anger? What am I going to do in moments of sorrow? Because, that's the first thing that you kind of feel when you're faced with a sudden emotion. What do I do? What do I do? And so taking the time to have some things in place that you could go to, even just notes on your phone, if you can journal on a paper journal. This is how I intend to celebrate things, and have a list of things for you to do. When I am sad, when I'm having a hard day, when I'm frustrated, here's the playlist. Here is the first couple of songs that I know usually can almost guarantee me a laugh. Here is a movie that I know makes me laugh every single time. So I have right in the moment, I can look it up. What does sad look like? Okay, this is what I'm going to do, because I know sad is going to come. I know that frustrated is going to get here. I know that there are going to be days where I'm genuinely mad, and that's a true feeling. But how am I going to handle it? I think that having preparation for all of those things gives us a measure of control, because those emotions don't have the last say. And especially someone who has been, in the military, man, you run all kinds of drills for situations that may or may not ever come, but you're getting into like a muscle memory where if for some reason we're called into this specific situation, we're not going to freak out. We've got a plan in place for that. And so I think, taking that time to answer those questions, what does joy look like for me? What would really authentically give me pleasure for in these different seasons? And really taking note of things kind of helps, because I know the Home Depot flower section is a powerful place for me when I just need to be like, I'm not with anybody else. I'm pushing a shopping cart. I'm just looking at the pretty flowers. No one even knows that there's a freak out taking place, but I'm answering that emotion, that I may be feeling with some place I can get to pretty quickly.
I love that journaling idea. I absolutely love that. That's awesome. And I'm a journal creator on Amazon. So I think I'm going to make that journal. I'm going to make one for emotional eating. I've been working on a triple B&E journal for, writing down things, because gosh, we forget the early days of like this BBB&E challenge. I've discovered things that I didn't know about my satiety, and writing that down so you don't forget it is so helpful. But a journal on emotional eating is just like, that's a great idea. I think a lot of people could benefit from that.
I would love if you made that, because even if you're looking at like daily planners or scheduling planners, they never give room to like how I'm feeling today, right, and what exactly is my response to stuff.
That movie that is going to make you laugh, I got to ask you guys, what's your movie?
It's going to be Step Brothers. It's so bad. It's like it's bad, but like, just when we're having a hard day, I'll look at the kids or I'll look at Joe and I'll say like, did we just become best friends? Yes. Or, do you like guacamole? And because the collapsing bed that they had kind of like made themselves, talk about a do it yourself, but that one went wrong. Right. And just those little one-liners are just silly. It's just such nonsense. What's a movie that brings you joy?
The one that makes me laugh the most is Down Periscope.
I love
that
movie.
one scene where they have to be very quiet.
Mm-hmm. I love that movie.
It makes me laugh every time. I don't care how many times I've seen it.
And it's a great idea to use movies. Like, for example, like Rachel hates this, but if I'm looking for like hope, I just feel like I'm in a hopeless situation. A great movie for me is Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, I love that. That is an awesome
one of my
movie.
favorite movies. I don't think I've
it's
I think
terrible,
I've seen the
but it's
movie
awesome.
like one time in entirety, like start to finish.
Oh, really?
Because it's one of those movies that like you flip through the channels or you're scrolling down through Netflix, like, let's go watch that, And so fortunately we don't have TV anymore. So now I would have to watch it start to finish because we only have like movie services and things. But it brings me hope because he was in such a hopeless situation, but he found the best in it. So hearing all of that and coming up with this idea of journaling, what is something that you could do if you, for example, were in a depressed state? Maybe you were sad about something. What is something that you feel like you could do for that?
Sad. I'm not a sad person typically. But, I'm going to go get a hug from somebody. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ask for a hug because I'm going to find somebody who I know cares about me and I'm going to say, hey, I need a hug.
Wow.
That's right.
That is such a brave thing to do. Sometimes we think that we're too old to ask for one of those needs, right?
You ask for them all the time.
I do, but I don't think like that's not something that you normally do.
No.
Like I'm just really having a hard day and I need a hug, and that's a very vulnerable thing to do. But we're never upset when someone asks us for a hug, right?
Right.
I mean,
it's an honor.
It is. It's an honor. You've come to me. I always love that when the kids choose to come hug me, or you see a friend and they have their arms open to you. That's just so welcoming. And yeah, I think that's a really brave thing to do. And we just don't do that enough.
And one of the things that I think that people use food for the most is celebration.
Definitely.
So what is
something
you can do with instead of food for if you want to celebrate something?
That's a good one. I'm a photographer. And so I love taking pictures. That's why there aren't very many pictures of me, is because I'm doing all the taking of the pictures. So I love taking pictures of God's creation and eliminating as much of mankind as I can. So beach, forest, flowers, all that. It just brings me joy.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. And then you also bless other people because when you share them, that encourages them and also gives them a moment that they're not thinking about food in that moment.
Yeah.
They're thinking about the beauty that you're bringing to their lives, which is really powerful. And I think whenever anybody shows a picture of an experience that they're having or even their animal, right? That's the most popular thing. TikTok, YouTube, it's like baby animals. Everybody's looking for some baby animals. So, that is not a food thing. It's a beautiful joy to behold. So I think that that's a really powerful thing to do.
So before we get into our last 3 questions, you mentioned that you were doing beef, butter, bacon, and egg again with us this September. And I was curious, you mentioned that you've learned some things. What have you learned?
I have learned that I didn't know what satiety meant for me. I didn't know what it was like to be full, in a manner of speaking, hormonally triggered full, right? That hormone, what is it, leptin, that says you're full. I'm very aware of the ghrelin hormone that says you're hungry, but the satiety that I found because I was going to eat until I'm full, I've experienced it several times now, and I'm backing off of it because it's not exactly pleasant. Before, back in the day of eating carbs, I could eat until full, but full was a different full. For me, I could eat a bucket of popcorn, 2 boxes of candy, a whole big giant soda, and then come home after the movie and have cake and ice cream and something else. And my stomach, not my hormones, my stomach would physically say, I'm full. It would be stretched like a balloon about to pop. When I almost feel like that's what it looked like too. You know, I could physically feel my stomach swollen, and that was painful in so much that I couldn't eat anymore. But with beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, I ate to the point where my brain said, I think I heard it. I think I heard a voice that said, if you take another bite, you're going to puke. I was like, okay, I'm done. That's it. That's all for me. And so that when I first experienced that, I'm like, well, that's maybe that's a fluke, right? I did it again. And oh, there it is. There it is. All right. Now I know what that looks like. I'm going to back it off because I don't like going to, throw up or anything because it's not a pleasant thing. I avoid it at all costs. And so with this satiety, I have found exactly how much will take me to just below that point of hearing that question in my head. So that's what I have been surprised about as far as what satiety means.
It's an amazing feeling when you discover that, right? You're like,
Oh
my, this is like, it's like, it's just all of a sudden you feel like a weight's been lifted off of you when you can discover that. And you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. I mean, we're not supposed to be eating until the point where, like we've talked about the Thanksgiving, we talked to somebody yesterday, she called it Thanksgiving stuffedness.
Yes.
We don't want to eat that way all the time. The reason in this first week that we're recommending eat that way, and the reason Dr. Berry recommends eating to that amount, is so that we can trigger that leptin hormone. And as you've done now you start backing it off, going like, yeah, I don't like that feeling. I don't want that feeling that it's about to come up the top. So now, but we now have recognized, okay, that's how much about is going to fill me up, instead of what society says, like, hey, 2 eggs and 2 slices of bacon. That's what you're supposed to have for breakfast.
Well, and
Right.
I think that we hear a lot of people ask for that. They're trying to ask us to give them a macro set that will provide fullness. And I can't answer that question for an individual person because it's going to be different. And it's also going to be different between days. It's going to be different with activities. And so you just have to be willing to do what you've done, Kris, which is go through this process, and that takes hard work. It takes saying, all right, I'm going to do this challenge. A lot of people say that they want to feel full, say that they want to get that information, but are they willing to do the true research? And that means getting in the lab of your life and, really experimenting.
I'm glad you mentioned the macros, because that is, one thing that people email us all the time, or people who sign up for just a 30-minute coaching consultation are like, I want personalized macros. And that is something that we don't offer. We don't do personalized macros because everybody is different, and there is no program, there is no calculator in the world that knows your body. And so the only way to figure out what are the best macros for you, I know this sounds like a cop-out, but it's trial and error. And I think one of the ways that we really came about that is working with our good friend Robert Sykes, Keto Savage, who, I went through his deeper state keto program, and he starts you out. First of all, the first thing he said to me was, you guys undereat. Rachel was eating like 1,500 calories. He was like, 1,500 calories? Nobody should be eating 1,500 calories. And and he's like, so the first thing we have to do is we have to reverse you up so that you're eating like 23, 24, 2,500. But then we're going to bring the numbers down, but we're going to do it slowly, and we're going to mess with things because we're looking for your personal threshold. And the only way to do that is with trial and error. So I'm glad that is something that you've been able to get in touch with, because it's different for everybody.
Sure.
Did you struggle with trying to get that perfect macro set right and try to just kind of answer the fullness question on paper before you've done this challenge of doing it in your body?
I have not. The only time I really tracked macros, I mean, originally when I first started keto, I did macros. I tried to. I consistently failed at that, but I just decided that I was just going to eat the foods that were acceptable on keto. When I did track and tried to fit my meals was I did like a week or two of protein sparing modified fasting. And so I was like, well, let me see if I can do this right. And I had a really hard, I didn't realize that pointed out to me how much fat was in what I was eating. So the calories, I rarely made the calories. I was over on fat consistently. It was trying to find something that was not fat on protein sparing that was difficult for me. But no, I haven't tried to do macros. I especially like this challenge in that we don't care about macros. We're just eating. And then the fact that I know I'm going to lose weight. And I didn't track macros back in January either. I just don't want to care about calories. I want to find success without having to do math and worry about macros. Now, if I start not having success, that's probably the first place I would go, is to figure out, all right, what am I eating? And I've been taking pictures daily of my meals to share with my accountability partners. Every single meal I take, I try to remember to take a picture. And if I don't, I'm still going to tell them what I ate exactly. Now, I'm not measuring portions, though. I'm eating until I'm full. I made a 2-pound chuck roast the other day, and I just put it on the dish in front of me and ate it. And I couldn't tell you how much I ate. I think I ate 2/3 of it, but I was full. And that's such freedom, isn't it? Mm-hmm. To not have to worry about my portion size. That is the absolute coolest thing about beef, butter, bacon, and eggs.
And the place where you really need to, people say, well, when do I need to do macros? When do I need to count everything? The further you get away from what Dr. Berry calls the proper human diet, the further we get away from just eating a whole bunch of meat, maybe a little bit of veggies, the further we get away from eating 1, 2, or maybe 3 meals a day, that's where you have to start counting everything. Because It's so easy. I think the average American, if you count every time you put something in your mouth, the average American eats like 20 to 24 times a day. So
incredible
that every, you walk through the refrigerator, let me grab 3 Brazilian nuts. That all adds up. So we talk about it all the time that counting calories doesn't work, but calories do matter. If we're eating like 3 or 4 nuts every 30 minutes, which again, because we're not satisfying our satiety hormones when we do that, we can easily overeat the amount of fuel that we're having. But when we limit it to 1, 2, or 3 meals a day, and we limit it to the true foods that our body needs, it's very difficult to overeat and therefore overeat the fuel we need. And we don't have to count anything. It's just the further we get away from that, the more we have to kind of look and count and measure. And I don't want to have to do that either.
Me neither.
So before we end this podcast, we have 3 questions we always like to ask people that we're interviewing. So are you ready for these?
I am.
The first question we want to ask you is, when you were getting started on keto, what was your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is that it wouldn't work because I'm going to be eating fat and what? every diet that I had ever tried, every way of eating, right? Supposedly when we do this, there's just no sense in trying something that you're not going to do long term, right? And be able to stick to it long term. So when I started keto, I wanted to be able to do it forever. And that's what I was worried about. Am I going to be able to do this forever?
And I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have. Like, because we've had this ingrained in us that like fat makes you fat, which it doesn't. And that, if you eat too much food, you're going to get fat. We've had this ingrained calories in, calories out is the only thing that works, that you need to just go exercise, except for chronic exercise can actually be just as bad. That can raise our insulin, raise our glucose, and cause issues as well. So I think that's a fear that a lot of people have. I know Rachel had that fear coming in.
Absolutely. After calorie restricting for so long and still gaining weight, I thought the opposite of calorie restricting is going to be just like putting it on faster, putting weight on faster. I'm going to fast track this fatness, but yeah, I was very afraid of it as well.
My biggest suggestion, if someone is coming in to lose weight, and now I never advise people to do keto just to lose weight. It's keto to me is a weight optimization diet if you do it properly. And I steal that from Dr. Berry, but I think that keto brings so many other health benefits, and the weight loss is a side effect. But if anybody is listening and says like, that is my fear, I'm really worried about it. My thing is give it 30 days, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You gain a bunch of weight in 30 days because you do it wrong. And, okay, so maybe you put 3-4 pounds on. Well, is there any harm in trying? Like we're going to probably put 3-4 pounds on over a month in the standard American diet anyway. The only thing is I know that if you come to keto from the standard American diet and you truly do it without cheating for 30 days, you don't have to count a thing. You don't have to count, how much protein, how much fat. You don't have to weigh anything. If you just come into and for 30 days, you do nothing except for eliminate all of the sugar, all the pasta, all the grains, and keep your carbs as low as possible, preferably under 20 total carbs, you will lose weight, because your body is just in such a shock from not having the carbohydrates. Like those first 30 days are amazing. It's amazing how much you can eat in those first 30 days. But if you eliminate those carbohydrates, you'll probably drop 15 pounds in water weight alone in the first 30 days.
Easily.
And that's always an encouragement, right? When you see that scale go down, even though we all know it's water, it still makes you feel like, okay, this works, right?
I like how we were just saying about weight optimization, because I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to just like the trajectory of the scale should just always be down, 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 down. Well, I can't be 45 pounds. That wouldn't be healthy. At some point, you need to settle in what is the optimum, weight for yourself. Where do you feel good? And you can do all of the activities that you want to do, but it does level off. That's not a bad thing.
So question 2.
What surprised you after you got started on keto? What was the biggest surprise?
How easy it was to just do it, to just eat whole foods, to eat meat, to eat bacon, because I love bacon. And I honestly, when I first started, I know I was doing it not, the whole foods only. I was doing really super, what everybody would say is dirty keto. Talking about the keto labeling of and how they market it to us. I was buying everything. It says keto, yay! I mean, I had a habit of reading labels and stuff first. So that there was some things that were, oh my gosh, that's not keto, y'all. Come on, it says sugar is the first ingredient. Let's be real. But that really was what surprised me, was really how easy it is. It's eating foods I love and enjoying it. It's not all about enjoying your fuel, but it sure is nice to be able to enjoy it too.
That is a good point. It's also, it's easy from a shopping standpoint also. I can remember when we were involved in different, programs that you had to like travel to the storefront where they sold the food, or, you would be going on a vacation and you're like, I've got to stockpile a lot of this weird stuff because I'm not going to be able to get it on the road. But it's nice that there is just an ease of use. I can work it into my current grocery budget without saying, hey, we've got to have an extra $500 this month. We can just switch out, stop buying some of the things we were buying, and instead prioritizing the meat and a little bit of vegetables. And so that does make it easy. I'm not having to learn how to, cook something crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't have to have a lot of different cooking devices. I can use my stove and my oven and my barbecue grill. Yeah. I think that makes it really easy.
So final question. Somebody's getting started on keto, brand new. What is your number one suggestion for them?
It is all about mindset. It's like mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter.
Oh, that's so good.
There's another t-shirt for you.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, it really is about where you are mentally, right? You have to tell yourself, this is what I'm going to do, and then stick to it. Because if you get into it saying I'm going to lose weight, well, eventually the weight's going to stop coming off, just because that's how our body works. We're designed to not really lose weight, because that means you could starve to death. So you really have to be prepared for those the flat lines when you get to a point where all right, the weight's not coming off as often as it did before, right in the beginning. And just stick with the process, knowing that even though you may not be losing weight, you are staying so healthy and you're eating so healthy.
That is really powerful. And, as you were talking about, like, if you don't mind, it don't matter. I was thinking, how many times do I take what some other person minds and I make it matter for me? And it doesn't need to be that way. It's their mind over their matter, not my mind over my matter may be different. And I think we all have to kind of look at this, journey like we're deciding we're going to climb Mount Everest, right? That's a challenge. When we want to see transformation in our lab work, in our lives, in our relationship with food, that seems like a very lofty goal. But anybody who has traversed Mount Everest did it by beginning to think to themselves, like, I could do this. That's number one. That's like, okay, well, I want to do this. That's number one. I want to do this. And I believe I can do this.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody that I think never decided I need to believe that I can do this, they're the ones that are still looking from the bottom of that mountain, So I really celebrate that, because it means as much as I've been hard on myself in the past, as much as I've, had hangups and stuff, we did, Kris, at least decide, I think I could do this.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's a really powerful belief that we can have for ourselves.
Well, Kris, thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. I don't know who coached who.
She coached us, definitely.
I feel like we got a bunch out of you as well. I do want to say thank you so much for your interactions on our Mighty Network group. And if you are not a member of our Mighty Networks, what are you waiting for? Head on over to our website, head on down below and sign up for Mighty Networks. You can find it at members.2crazyketos.com. Kris is in there. If you're looking for an accountability partner, she's put an open invitation out to people. If you need an accountability partner, you hit her up on Mighty Networks and she's happy to be there for you. So thank you so much for that, because that is what our channel is all about.
All right, thank you guys. This was awesome.
So that is going to be the end of today's Keto Audit Podcast. Now, if you are interested in some coaching, you can head on over to our website and sign up for a free 20-minute discovery call where we can find out if we are a good fit for each other. And until our next podcast, I'm Joe.
And I'm Rachel.
And we are the two crazy ketos.
I love how Kris talked about success in her life has been linked to community.
Yeah, when she sat down and started writing like her story for the Keto Audit interview, she said that it was really interesting to find that every time she's been successful at losing weight, it was when she was doing it with somebody. And I'm glad that she brought that up, because that really is the focus of our channel, right? We are all about building community, because it's hard to do life alone, let alone try to eat this lifestyle.
I mean, absolutely. And I love the fact that she wrote things down. I think that you discover a lot when you journal. We think that's a simple thing and we could probably skip that step in our life, but I hope that someone hears, don't do that.
Right.
Don't skip that step. In fact, you want to be journaling, all about your life and what's going on so that you can take a notice,
right,
like Kris did, of what is working.
Yeah, I really hope she comes out with that journal book.
Me too.
So if you are interested in a keto audit, we're going to leave a link down below. And you can go ahead and just sign up for that keto audit. It's about an hour. We do want to let you know, in order to do the keto audit, you need to be willing to be on camera. You have to have a decent internet connection, and you really need to have a set of headphones. Otherwise, we won't be able to record it properly. But if you are interested, you can use that link down below. And again, if you are not subscribed to our podcast, go find us on your favorite podcasting platform. And while you're there, make sure you leave a 5-star review down below so we can boost it all up. Now, if you like videos like this and you want to see us continue putting our different podcasting episodes here on our YouTube channel, make sure you take a look at some of the videos that we have linked right over there. Also, make sure you take a look at the most recent video that I'm going to put right over here.
But whether you head this way or you head this way, don't forget to head this way. Subscribe to our channel and click the little bell icon, and that way every single time we upload a new video, you'll be alerted to it.
Till next time.
Bye.